Okay, here I'm using a belt sander to flatten out the back side of the head, knock the epoxy down a little bit, and take out the tool marks from sawing that were still left in. I am going to be adding a walnut piece onto this. It's a little bit thin. I need to make it 5/8 of an inch thick. So next couple of clips you'll see that being prepped. I've got the walnut rough to size and I'm gluing it up, and not every glue up goes just as planned, as you'll soon see. And here is glue up part 2. This time I was smart enough to leave it sitting on the table. Okay, I need to drill a hole in the back that is going to be deep enough to receive this sleeve on my tuner. I want to stop that hole about right there to ensure that I still have a tight fit for the nut of the tuner on the front, which this hole was drilled by the CNC, and that is a tight fit. So this 25/64 drill bit is what I'm going to use from the back side, and I'll set my depth at that mark and center that as best I can. And if my big arm's out of the way, you'll be able to see. A scarf joint jig that I manufactured for my table saw. I'm mounting the headstock, making sure that the base of the headstock is level and flush to the end of the jig. Okay, I'm going to glue this scarf joint on. I have it prepped, sanded with 150, nice and flat, and all I need to do is make sure that I get the head glued on where this is level so that the fretboard can go on and cover this. Plenty of glue on this. Definitely don't want a glue starved joint here. This joint will have a lot of stress on it. The old finger spreader works quite well. Apply a little bit of pressure initially. Okay, I've got my neck glued to the head, and I use the scrap from the scarf joint to support this end of it to help it not move around quite as much while it glued down. I have a silicone mat underneath to keep it from sticking to the table, and that's where she's going to sit until it's done.
Okay, back over to the CNC. I've got a piece of Brazilian cherry here that we're going to engrave the Old Ash logo into. Back to the table saw. I'm going to rough out some fretboards here. I've got some Brazilian cherry and some Osage orange, and I believe they even have a walnut coming out. The necks are going to be out of some curly maple. I've got a piece here that I'm jointing up the end on, and then I'm going to cut out rough sizes on the tip saw.
Working on fitting the maple handle to the Brazilian cherry, but I think I might have a little bit of a fitment issue right here. The handle is going to have to be cut back, or the neck rather is going to have to be cut back to allow clearance for the tuner. I'm cutting it back at an angle that somewhat mimic the headstock here, and then I'll taper it back down to the neck, or to the headstock rather. I always keep a little piece of plastic cut at a sharp angle. It makes for a really good little scraper to scrape the glue away from any glue ups where you have squeeze out. Minimizes what you have to work with later. You can also wrap your rag in it and use that 45 angle to get right down in the corner. Really good little build tip there. Save you a lot of cleanup in the long run. Difficult cleanup. I think we've just about got this one glued up. Get it cleaned up here a little bit, and I'm going to walk away from it. Let it sit for a few hours before I unclamp it. My Osage orange and walnut neck is glued together well. I've got a little bit of a void here that I'm wanting to fill up. I'm just going to take this, sand it lightly, check it for flatness. Everything is very flat. Got a little spot right here at the end where I had that epoxy filler, and then a little spot right at the end of the glue joint. And I'm going to get a little thin CA and put some CA glue in that and just go ahead and glue that sawdust into it. I'm using Hot Stuff here by Satellite City. That is my preferred brand of CA. And I am just going to wet this area out. Let that sit for a few minutes. Hit it with a shot of activator. Here is the progress so far. Got 2 headstocks glued to 2 necks. I have a walnut neck, walnut base on that headstock with Osage orange, and that's going to be an Osage orange fretboard. And this is curly maple neck with Brazilian cherry fretboard and Brazilian cherry headstock. And still got to work on the fretboards yet and get them radiused and do a couple more.